everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. We said last week that this week we're going to be talking about race and culture in relation to appearance.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So how do you, Raha, think trends have changed over the years, or since you have blessed this earth?
Well, are we just talking in terms of like fashion or
Yeah.
body image? Do you know what I mean? Like what kind of trend?
I think fashion and body. I think they kind of go hand in hand.
Well, I think as like 90s babies, it was just the whole like blue eyeshadow, lip gloss, French nails. Do you know what I mean? All of that. That's the first thing I think of when I think of like 90s. And I think like stuff like streetwear became such a huge thing then because of like the come up of hip hop and all of that kind of stuff. And I'd say culturally, that's kind of when the shift began. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
I would agree. Yeah. Well, to be honest, I think we can't deny the fact that white artists have always stolen from black artists for hundreds of years. But I think it was when the shift happened where they were like proudly wearing... I think it's when they openly started to like wear the same kind of stuff, talk in the same way, pick up the same slang and things like that. But I think black culture has always influenced white culture. I think it was like at its height where a bit of a shift happened. I do agree.
And I feel like it was quite it was quite obvious.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if things were stolen before, it was always done in like an indirect kind of secretive way, and now it's like, hey, look at what this artist is doing. Let me put on my baggy pants and my jersey, and rock it too.
Yes, yeah,
you know.
And I think the trend back then was for women anyway to be petite in the 90s.
Yeah,
it was very athletic. Which carried on into the early 2000s. And then you saw the rise of, like, the curve. Latin artists becoming more mainstream. People like J-Lo, Shakira. Making it,
sexy.
showing the sexiness of it, essentially. Yeah. And obviously Beyonce as well, early 2000s. So...
But then I feel like they were able to dilute it enough to make it mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is diluted.
It
was diluted. And these body shapes have existed for a long time, but people weren't celebrated for it before. It just then all of a sudden became a thing. But at that time, it was still really fashionable to be like super skinny and have a big bum and big boobs. You
mean like Pamela Anderson style?
Yeah, or even like Katie Price or... obviously, they're like a bit more on the extreme side, but that was like the ideal aesthetic, like to just, you know.
Yeah.
And then it became a bit more fashionable to be a bit more wider thighed.
Yeah, have that J-Lo butt.
Yeah.
In your juicy tracksuit.
Yeah. No, I meant later on.
Oh, you mean later in the... yeah, okay.
And then, blackness was just fully appropriated, essentially. And what do we mean by appropriation?
It's... I'd essentially call it robbing. Robbing something from another culture.
Yeah.
Or even, let's say it's not robbing. Let's say it's in celebration of that particular thing.
Yeah.
But not giving any recognition or credit to that particular culture.
Yeah. When they've been punished for it, essentially.
It's...
For a long, long time, and still are to this day.
Exactly.
Especially when it comes to hairstyles.
Yes.
So one of examples is white people or black people of colour having braids. Mm-hmm. Now, you had braids.
Yeah, I did.
And what happened?
Don't cancel me. What do you mean, what happened?
No, I want to know. Like, what was the process? Like, you thought, hey, I want braids.
Oh, okay. So I wanted braids. Can I just... I'm not trying to justify it, okay? But it was a long time ago. And I just thought they were the most beautiful things I'd ever seen.
Which they are.
Which they absolutely are. And I thought, wow, I look so cool in braids. And my friend did them for me, my non-black friend. And I had them in for about a week, didn't I?
Yeah, something like that.
Firstly, it doesn't work with my hair. Hello?
Yeah.
I don't have textured hair, okay? My head was red. It hurt. I was like, why is this happening? Like, it was pulling on my natural hair. The synthetic hair that I'd used was no good either. And I'm just, like, looking at myself like, who are you trying to be right now? Because it was just ridiculous. And, I took it out after a week, and I just felt... I felt ridiculous. So I would talk to all my black friends and just be like, what do you think about me getting braids and stuff? Now, God bless them. Because a lot of the time, they were super nice about it, you know, or they would be impartial. But when I look back, I just think, rah, what on earth was going through your mind? Like, it's just not... You're not black.
But what would you say to people who turn around and say, oh, but it's just a hairstyle, anyone should be able to have a hairstyle?
Oh, so the issue is that these women can't wear these hairs. They're not allowed to in professional settings, and they get shunned for it. And it's so frowned upon within, like, the white community and especially not, like, I'd say braids are just reaching, like, acceptable, you know, but especially for black women who want to have or black men who want to have their hair natural, they want to have twists and dreads and all kinds of stuff, and they're not able to. It's just like, you're taking the piss.
Yeah. But also, I think the point,
like,
that
you tried it,
that, like,
you tried it, hun.
I think what you said was really important, where you said it's just not for your hair.
It
ain't for you. Like, it was hot. I remember you being like, what have I done? I said, oh, no, I'm not going to be that guy. But no. It was terrible.
I never wanted to talk about this. Can I just... ever. Like, I thought
to throw her under the
I
bus.
really just wanted to sweep this under the carpet and never, ever have to remember that ever again.
Yeah, but do you know what? It's really important as well, because when you posted your photo with them, you got so much attention.
Yeah, I did.
And that's the other thing, that it's acceptable for you. And, you know, the average person might be like, well, I think it's acceptable for black people to have braids as well. But you have to look at the history as to why black people had braids in the first place. You know?
It's a protective style.
Exactly.
And one that is that's not allowed in the workplace. It's just like... Yeah, so...
literally, unless you're walking around, in my opinion, with a picture of Brandy around your neck...
Alicia Keys.
I don't think you can have braids if you're not black. And that's just my personal opinion. Anyway, we've really got digressed. So what are some other examples of appropriation?
So big lips.
Yeah.
Butt implants.
Yeah.
Bindies at festivals. The list goes on.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff.
Why do you think big lips and butt implants are appropriation?
Because they are... like, naturally and biologically part of the black gene pool.
Yeah.
Not ours. Or white people's.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't born with that. It's not yours, you know?
So, what about, you know, you should let people, like, I'm getting lip fillers because it's not because I want to look black, it's because I want to have bigger lips. I've got tiny lips and I should be able to do whatever I want with my body.
Okay, but you weren't getting called N-word lips at school.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah,
Me.
You did.
A Persian girl whose lips aren't even that big.
Why is it alright if you want to do it?
Why is it alright? And why was I made to feel insecure about mine for years? For years and years. And it's the same with the bum stuff. Like, I know girls who've been made fun of for their bums when they were at school, and how it's so over-sexualized as well, especially within the Latina community.
Yeah.
And now it's just being done for an aesthetic, and people don't understand the repercussions of that and what people of colour have had to deal with when they're on the receiving end, essentially. What do you think it is?
What is?
Like, what the issue is with someone who wants to get, like, butt implants or big lips?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think I am very much someone who's like, you do you. If you
Yeah.
have that, if I see you and I meet you, I'm not judging you for it. I'm really not. I understand that it's a wider issue. It's not the people. I never put the blame on the individual, to be honest.
neither.
I think it's the systems that perpetrate and continue
Absolutely.
this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I never judge.
No, I know, no, I sound so judgmental. To all you girls who have had lip fillers and have had this work done, I genuinely mean this, like, I don't judge you at all. That's something you wanted to do with your body. It's your choice. Absolutely.
It's more, you know, the way in which we what's the word?
Perpetrate.
No,
Reinforce.
not perpetrate. Reinforce. It's the way in which we reinforce stuff that is harming black people and people of colour.
Yeah.
And we're being celebrated for it.
Yeah.
That's the issue. It's like you're getting celebrated for something that has made someone feel so insecure, have such low self-esteem, which has obviously affected the way in which they show up in employment, in relationships, in front of the mirror, right? It's that. I think this is something that we see online a lot, blackfishing, where people are either filtering themselves or using so much fake tan that they could literally pass for something that they're not.
Yeah.
And my issue with that is that you're never going to find contentment and happiness trying to be something that you're not, or not embracing what you've got yourself.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh yeah, the love yourself movement online. I'm not talking about that. I'm literally talking about being okay with every single part of you, because you have it for a reason. It serves you, and it served you all this time.
Yeah.
That we need to stop this self-loathing, this self-criticism, and this constant comparison, whilst also stealing from other cultures.
Yeah.
You know?
So but then in that sense, who would you say is then responsible? Like, for the people who are being influenced, you know, they are the ones who are just consuming what's being fed to them, right? So who is the person who is being like, this is what I'm gonna rob?
Well, I think this is the issue, the robbing part. The fact that you feel like you need to take from someone else to make yourself more whole.
Yeah.
It's not true. That's never going to happen. So you need to be okay with yourself, and you need to be fully accepting of yourself before you can then be like, hey, I really admire this about this person or this about this culture, and put them on a pedestal, right? And be like, hey, ta-da, this is amazing, look at this is so aesthetically pleasing, this person, and their natural given, I don't know, features or their style or whatever, as opposed to being like, I like that, so I'm going to take it for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's mine. And again, it goes back to this individualization of ourselves, forgetting the fact that we're just a tiny part of the whole collective.
Yeah.
And that whatever you do has a consequence, it has an effect. Whether people are copying you, whether people are calling you out for it, you know, this, that, and the other. When you do something as unsavory as, I don't know, taking from someone else, stealing from someone else. And a lot of people aren't aware that that's the culture. Like, that's the context around what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the context.
And it's like, even in relation to things like body hair, for you and me, for example, you know, well, not just Middle Eastern people specifically, but like, you know, I've had Italian friends, Spanish friends who also have a lot of body hair and have been ashamed of it for the, you know, the whole time that I've known them. And suddenly it's really cool to have bushy eyebrows. Cara Delevingne has bushy eyebrows, and
you know the amount of abuse I got for my monobrow. I still can't get over. I'm like, why do you care so much about my eyebrows?
And you know what the other thing is? Because people made fun of me for it back then. And since it became a trend, let's say from like 2012, 13, when like contouring and all of that cool stuff came into fashion and eyebrows became a thing, like, girls always see me now and I always get complimented on them so much. But it's just excessive. And I still don't... To me, it feels so odd from being made fun of for something and then girls suddenly praising you for it and being like, oh babe, you've oh my god, eyebrows on fleek, babe, like, wow, how'd you do that? What? And I'm like, wasn't you
saying back in day? and I want to distinguish the fact that it's not bitterness. It's not being
I know, I sound
bitter.
so bitter.
No, it does sound like it. In part, it is that, right? In part. But I think ultimately, I don't... think people understand the effect that the effect pointing out someone's features has on them. Well, they do. I think everyone has an experience of having something shamed about them.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
Yeah, it's the shaming.
It's the shaming.
And the long-term impact that has on you.
Exactly.
Like, I think that's what people underestimate so much.
Especially in childhood. Like, if you're being shamed for something in childhood all the way throughout your teenage years, you're not going to magically wake up in your 20s and be like, oh.
Like, how long did we spend, like,
in the
waxing,
mirror,
threading, bleaching, doing God knows how many things to make sure that we're like clean and pristine and smooth and had that Eurocentric like aesthetic at all times for it to then just not be a thing anymore.
Yeah. Which, to be honest, I'm so happy about. God, my maintenance has gone down so much. Jeez. But at the same time, it's just not done in the right way.
Yeah, exactly.
This is it. We're not honouring or
giving
praise to or acknowledging the roots of these trends.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, even going back to the Kardashians, who we were talking about last week, Kylie Jenner, her aesthetic being very similar to Kim and Chloe and Courtney, but they've got different dads. Like, she's fully white. Like, she's fully white.
Those Arab memes of her are just my favourite.
But
because
that's exactly
really
what they look
the
like.
aesthetic that she's
like
she's
what we
putting
grew
out
up
there.
with, and we were like, oh my God. And here's the other thing. It goes so much deeper than just your self-esteem. But the way in which we used to get like mad at our parents for not being on trend, or for like liking things that we were like, oh, that's so icky. Like,
or just being, I just felt like pure shame within my own body all the time.
Yeah. And like going to Iran and being like, oh my God, they've got it so wrong. They're so backward. And then those things becoming fashionable.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's self-hatred.
Yes. And it becomes internalized.
Yeah, definitely. Because you're just like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. Why is this woman on this, I don't know, hair dye bottle with full eyeliner and lip gloss and lip liner and everything?
Yeah.
And not embarrassing, but it was just a bit like, it was so jarring and different to what we were used to here. Yeah. And then it became cool. So we've spoken about, you know, blackfishing, and then you've got the fox eye trend.
Yeah.
Which again, I think we do take a lot of influence from East Asia. And we don't ever give credit.
No.
Or acknowledgement. Then you've got the whole bleaching, which goes the other way.
Oh, bleaching the skin, you mean? Yeah.
And I do just want to point out that I don't want to speak on the black experience too much, or for black people, on behalf of black people, because obviously we're not black.
Yeah.
This is just observations, I guess, that we've made. And skin bleaching, it is a direct result of the Eurocentric standard of beauty that we've grown up around. Being more desirable, and that I think it goes into colourism, which we're going to discuss a little bit more. But I wanted to ask you, because we've spoken about this a lot. Your uni has a whole research centre on appearance.
Yeah, on appearance, right? Yeah.
So I just want to kind of go into what we think kind of allows these systems and these things to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And you had an experience, Raha, where on one of your modules on appearance, race wasn't covered.
On any of the modules, race wasn't covered. It just wasn't... It wasn't covered.
Yeah.
I always remember, like, when I was choosing the modules that I was going to study, I was like, appearance, perfect. Like, I would really, really love to learn about this and what it means to, like, you know, be a person of colour and how that affects people psychologically and all of that stuff. And it started, and it was just like, wait, body shaming, social media, like, body positivity. That was it. Like, there was no mention of race. There was just nothing. And I remember, I think it was like one of the first few classes that I'd had, you know, there I was at least like one of maybe 5-6 girls of colour who were in that class. And any time we would bring it up, it was dismissed. Like, like the teacher my lecturer would just continue and move on to something completely separate. And I remember talking to them, the other girls of colour in the class afterwards, and they were just like, why is she not talking about, like, how are we not talking about race? It just blew my mind. And I remember we pulled her up on it. We actually complained to somebody who was like the head of year or whatever, and they gave her that feedback, my lecturer, and they said, you haven't covered race in this module, like, why is that and stuff. And she said that she doesn't know enough about it, so she just doesn't want to do it.
And she doesn't feel comfortable.
She doesn't feel comfortable, yeah.
Oh. And you have a whole research centre on appearance.
A whole research centre.
And it's not covered because someone doesn't feel comfortable.
And I'll never forget, like, I wrote an essay, it was like a self-reflection, and I brought race into it so much, and that was the lowest mark I got all year. And you remember what I was like. I was
fuming.
Just so infuriated, because I just thought, how...
And that was a really cool one, because didn't you have to not change something about your appearance? So you grew out your leg hairs.
It was my body hair, yeah. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to choose my body hair, and I'm going to bring in the fact that I'm Middle Eastern. And when I'm talking about my self-reflection, talk about my early experiences of growing body hair, like earlier than my peers and all of that kind of stuff. And oh my God, that grade just...
She was not having it.
She just didn't understand. And we took it further, and the university just chose not to do anything about it. It just wasn't, and I imagine it's still not going to be covered in the upcoming years. And I think, what?
That's what? UE, by the way.
Yeah, that's UE Bristol. And it's such a diverse university. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's so diverse.
It was just a shame. I was really disappointed.
And that's it. If we're not doing the research on it, we can't implement the change.
Yeah.
In one aspect, right? And the other aspect is talking about it, making people aware about it. And I think, maybe not what we've done so much. Maybe we could do a bit more of it. But really talk about our own experience, because that's what we can talk most about. So people gain an insight into what it's like and what it might be like for someone to... jack something that you feel super insecure about.
And it's just like the insecurity is one aspect of it. It's the gaslighting for me.
Yeah.
It's I'm taking this up with you to tell you that this is an issue that I'm concerned about, because this needs to be covered within this module.
Yeah.
And the looks that I get sometimes is like... They almost look at me like, why are you taking... Why are you so dramatic? Why are you being so sensitive and dramatic?
Yeah.
Like, you've clearly have some insecurities, or you've had some racist experiences, and you're now projecting that onto whatever, And I'm like,
no, this has such wide implications.
You don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just the bare minimum, like the basic, like to just do research on how different skin tones experience the world, just based off their skin tone. Do you know what I mean? Like, even to just something so simple.
That's the thing. It's so simple.
It's so simple, and it's not at the top of a lot of people's priority list. And they're the institutions that have the funding, that have the scholars, that have all the rest of it.
Like, I'm about to
and they're not open to it. That's the issue.
Well, yeah, they're not open to it, and they don't want to acknowledge that it's an issue.
Yeah.
Because that would mean holding some accountability and acknowledging your privilege, and some 100%. People just don't want to do... They don't want to... It's too harsh of a reality to confront.
100%. And within that, we do all have to take some responsibility in the way that we feed into this. Whether it be, the musical artists that we support, the films that we watch, whether it be the brands that we buy from.
Yeah.
Who are we giving platforms to? Mm-hmm. Who are we allowing to influence us?
And sorry, on that, I remember I had one lecture about aging. That was another topic that we covered, and half of the lecture focused on Dove, the company, right? Because they used to be so bad with promoting like anti-aging things, and they've really changed their campaigning and all of that malarkey. And I remember sitting there thinking, do y'all remember when they had from normal to dark skin on their lotion bowls?
Yeah, normal to dark skin. Is that
why are we not talking about that as well?
100%. Oh yeah.
And I remember I raised my hand and I said that, and she was just like, "Oh yeah," back to aging.
What we're lacking is people who have actually experienced this stuff in those positions. Cultural competency, diversity and inclusion training does not cut it. It's not going to do it. It's not going to make the change. But also to just put people of colour in those positions. If you're going to be talking about appearance and you don't know anything about race, then bring someone in.
Exactly. And she did that with eating disorders and all other... Yeah, we had guest lecturers. This was my beef. This was my beef, that you have guest lecturers coming in talking about other topics.
Ugh.
If you don't feel comfortable talking about the issue of race, find someone else.
Wowzers trousers.
Yeah.
Terrible. And like we said, like within that, there are so many different... complexities as well that we're barely touching on because we're not getting on top of the basic bare minimum, and that I think makes a lot of black people and also people of colour feel like, is any change really happening? Because yeah, sure, people are spreading awareness as to how unjust things are, but we're not even changing the bare minimum. So how can we start to address all the other stuff that comes along with it? Stuff like colourism, for example, and the way that we continually like perpetuate that within a wider society.
Like the experiences we've had with colourism are...
Yeah. I mean, we've got personal stories and we've got examples that we can give you.
Because when people think of colourism, they think it's... I mean, it is obviously predominant. I wouldn't say it's predominantly within the black community. Would you?
No, not at all. I'd say it's in
every non-white community, I would say.
Yeah, I'd
like
agree.
when I went travelling and I went to Southeast Asia, I couldn't find any sun cream or any lotion that didn't have bleaching stuff in there. It just didn't exist. Thai people walk around with gloves and umbrellas.
Yeah.
You know, it's seen as a form, it represents wealth.
Yeah.
The lighter your skin is, the better off you are, you know?
Yeah.
And then within our own community, mum and dad telling me not to go out into the sun.
Yeah. And I think I've got quite a lot to say on this, because within my family, I'm probably the most fair-skinned. And the treatment that I got growing up was very different to my darker-skinned cousins.
Yeah.
Just because of my light skin. And I remember growing up and being like, this is so effed up, because I don't even like my pale skin.
It's so funny, isn't it? Like, you would spend the most time out there. Like, when we'd go on holiday, you'd spend the most time tanning.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was like, why are you applauding me for this? Like,
and we'd get past the factor 50 and be like, don't go in the sun.
My cousin, wear a t-shirt if you're going into the sun. Like, you don't want to tan too much. But also, you know, our parents were only reflecting what their wider community was kind of saying.
Yeah.
So, like, mom, like, my auntie... My cousins were born in Sweden, and they're much darker than us. The most amazing, beautiful skin you'll ever see. Oh, glowing. Just everything, all about it. Just fantastic. And she says she flew to Iran. All the people were like, "What? Weren't your kids born in Sweden? Like, why are they so dark?" Like, how ridiculous.
It's just ridiculous. And I would come back from holiday and mum and dad would be like, you're too dark.
Yeah. Because our skin tone is very different.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's one of the most distinguishable factors about us, that you go very, very dark. You tan a lot.
And I had no issue with that. I wanted to be brown. I'm going on holiday.
Yeah.
And I'd come back and mum and dad would just be like, why are you so brown? Like, you're too dark.
Yeah.
And I remember going back to school and people being like, whoa, you're so tanned. Like, and for the people at my school wanting to be tanned, that's
the other side
of
the
coin,
other
side.
I think, and I was thinking about this earlier when I was setting up, I was thinking about all the times throughout school where my friends or even their parents would be like, your olive skin is so beautiful. And me in my mind thinking, oh, but it's not olive, because everyone in my Iranian family is like, you're so pasty. I'm like, I'm white. And I'm like, I'm white, you know? Oh, I'm white. And obviously I'm not white, right? But also them only finding that and my voluminous hair the most desirable things about me, and then like bypassing and overlooking and shaming me for absolutely everything else. So it was just such a weird contrast and something I never quite kind of came to terms with until my like late teens. Literally, I was like, I'm not white. Like, actually, I'm not in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I am pasty.
See, I always knew I was, like, because I had the classic, oh my god, I'm as tanned as you, or I'm darker than you.
Oh, yeah.
And they put their arm against mine.
Yeah, I get that
and
all the
I
time.
got that all the time. And I'd be like, well, people call me black at school, so I don't even want to.
I got called black.
Look.
My thing was not that I thought I was white. I knew I wasn't white, 100%. It's more the idea of whiteness. Like, I don't look white, but on the inside, like, I'm just like you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It was people always making it a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or your
exactly making it a thing.
People say to me, your cup of tea colour.
No.
That is why I love this country. I love this country. Your cup of tea colour. I'm like, yeah, 2 sugars, babe. Because I'm sweet as hell. Yeah.
Wow.
Cup of tea colour.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've never been able to get my head around how the roles have, like, it's just backwards in the way that you go anywhere else in the world and they want to be white as snow and they will bleach and they will do all kinds of stuff and stay indoors. And then you come here, you come to the West, and it's like, get me that Bondi Sands, Saint-Tropez, St. Moritz, whatever fake tan you got. Let me get that sunbed.
But, you know, this argument is used a lot online where people are like, hey, like, we're not blackfishing. People in the other parts of the world want to be white like us.
Yeah.
And they don't understand that all of this is a result of whiteness
colonialism,
and white supremacy.
Yeah.
All of it. Like, it's one thing.
They're
it's
like,
not two separate things.
No, it's not 2 things, and it doesn't work. It's not a 2-way thing.
No, exactly.
It's not like it's the same way that when white girls say, "Oh, why can't I get braids?" Black women wear weaves and straighten their hair because they want it to look white. Why do you think they want it to look white?
Yeah,
because they have to.
Yeah,
it's as a result of white supremacy. So it's just. That argument just doesn't stand. Sorry.
100%. And it feeds into what Beyonce's dad said.
You're saying it like everyone knows what Beyonce's dad said.
You know what Beyonce's dad. You know. Matthew. No. Who, questionable character, but he said that Beyonce's success is largely to do with the fact that she's light-skinned, which we know is a thing.
Yeah, for sure.
There are certain privileges that come with having fairer skin. Like if you're Mariah Carey, for example, most people don't know she's black. She's black. And people are like, oh, well, what does that matter? It matters because they then have the biggest platforms and they have a huge amount of influence on pop culture and people.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got people like Jennifer Hudson, right? Amazing talent. Alexandra Burke versus Leona Lewis.
Oh, wow, yeah. Oh, my God, I didn't even make that comparison ever.
You know, like the way in which dark-skinned women have it so much harder.
Yeah, oh, my gosh. They have it the hardest, I would say.
And they're the ones
in
being
my
appropriated.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? But yeah, we just want to... I just thought we'd talk about pop culture and the way in which, you know, this is something that we see. And because we see it, we store it in our subconscious to some degree, and then we continue perpetuating this behavior and these thought patterns and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it has a direct effect on us. What is trending, you know? And one of the examples that just always blows my mind is the Nina Simone film, who Nina Simone is incredible in, like... I don't think any words could do her justice, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Not just her music, but also her work outside of her music and everything she brought to the world. Anyway, so they're doing a biopic on her, of course, because she's incredible. And who gets the part? Zoe Saldana, who is light-skinned. Yeah. And they put special effects makeup on her and they darkened her skin to make her look like Nina Simone. Now,
the thing is, people are like, oh, well, so what? What if she's good for the role? She's good for the role. It wasn't Idris Elba going to be James Bond. But people do say this shit.
no, it's true. Well, the issue is that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of dark-skinned black women who would have been perfect for that role, who would have done it justice, and who would have got the paycheck they deserved.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's taking opportunities away from people who would have done more justice.
Purely to make it more digestible for the white audience.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. It's to make it more digestible, and it's to bring in numbers, and it's money orientated. But, you know, I'm conscious of the fact that we're speaking on the black experience and we're not black, but I think this had such a huge impact and influence over our life so far. And
especially because we grew up admiring, listening to these people, and when you see them being like mistreated in the industry, it's heartbreaking, because it's like, you know, that these people have so much to offer and it's just being overlooked constantly.
Yeah, exactly that.
When something becomes mainstream and it's part of the culture, it almost becomes acceptable to wear and do certain things. Like, I'm not judging people for that either necessarily, because some things you just like, right?
Yeah.
It's the not giving props. That's the issue.
It's not giving props, and it's not understanding the context around why those things exist in the way that they do in the first place.
Yeah.
So, for example, when we're talking about festival goers and all their bindi and appropriation of ancient Indian symbology and
like,
all of that.
We'll go on to food another day, but food is another big one for me.
Yeah, but we're just talking about appearance today. If we're thinking about all of that, like, people don't understand what that means, and people are like, so what? I don't understand what it means. I wear it because I think it looks cool. And it's like, that's pure disrespect.
Yeah.
To someone's culture and upbringing and personal beliefs.
Exactly.
And the context. Again, it's all about context. We could go on about this.
Yeah.
But we're not going to. How do you think we can overcome this? This
this
dissonance.
Is really difficult.
It's like a cognitive dissonance at the moment, isn't it? Because I see these arguments online and I'm like, I can't believe people don't really understand the issue here.
Yeah.
But I guess people don't.
People really don't. I feel like hopping onto trends is okay, right? As long as you're showing recognition and you're educating yourself, and, you know, like, it's being it's cultural appreciation, not appropriation.
I think there's a huge disparity. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
There's a huge disparity between what's trending and who's been giving the platform to make it trending. So the people who have the platforms aren't the people who created the trends, right?
Yeah.
And we're not giving the people who create these trends or who have this as, like, who embody these trends. I think that's what's important. It comes from you. It's part of your lifestyle, the context, again, around your life. We're not giving those people the platforms that they deserve. I think another thing that needs to be addressed is who decides what's cool and what's not cool.
Yes.
What's trending and what's not trending. Is it us as consumers, or is there someone making these decisions for us? I don't know. Do you?
I don't know either, but I feel like it goes both ways. I feel like as consumers, we give, you know, people at the top a pretty good idea of what it is that we engage with and that we like, but also them pushing a certain agenda has the opposite effect too, where we are influenced, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that brings me on to what I was just thinking about, trends in fashion and appearance, and the way, obviously, trends are changing much quicker because everything is, like, so much quicker, right? We consume so much more. We buy online. Fast shopping is a thing. What's it called? Fast fashion. Fast fashion is a thing, and we have to think, like, at whose expense? Who is making these garments?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a whole topic.
That's a whole topic, but it feeds into appearance because we dress ourselves and change ourselves to fit these trends and to feed into what we think is popular, but who's suffering at the end of that?
Absolutely. And it's also that
if you were just yourself,
they change so rapidly because of the age of social media right now. So people are typically just buying outfits for that one Instagram post, and then they're done with it.
Yeah, or they send it back. And if you send most of these fast fashion retailers, if you send back any of your clothes, they don't like stock it and send it back out again. It goes into landfill. Done. That's a whole other thing, like we said. But it's culturally harmful because we know it's all in the Middle East and India.
Yeah.
Mostly. I don't mean that. And even if the factories are here, like in the UK, like let's talk, I don't know, is it PLT or Boohoo, same thing, who've got a factory in Leicester, who were their garment workers?
Yeah.
Who is creating this stuff for you?
But then how would you say people should try and navigate that? Would you say to just be more conscious of the fashion that you're, like what you're buying, or... I mean,
I don't want to put the blame on the individual again because this is a systemic issue. I don't want to say high salary. Some people can only afford that, and there is no shame in that. It's the systems that are allowing this stuff to happen, higher up.
Yeah.
It's not always it's not the individual. I think I have very similar views on global warming and, single use plastic straws and plastic bottles and all of that stuff. Of course we need to be conscious of the way we're living, but I think that the responsibility ultimately lies with these big massive $1 billion and pound corporations that are benefiting from the destruction of the planet and destructions of people's self-esteem. Honestly,
exactly. Yeah, it's literally all of it is at the expense of people's self-esteem.
And how do you think like self-esteem ties into all of this? Like obviously as a person of colour, a woman of colour, there are things that we spoke about that you've been shamed for, but it has an impact on your self-esteem. But outside of that, how else do you think it's had an impact?
I think it really impacts the way that people treat each other, to be honest. When you see girls with a certain aesthetic that is, on trend, of course they're way more likely to get opportunities and, just like better treatment from people within their own circle. Just,
So people benefit from buying into these trends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And again, at the expense of who?
Yeah. But then it's this, like, even for me, I know that I would benefit from buying into a lot of these trends.
Yeah.
I would get way more hype if I did certain things and looked a certain way.
And what stops you?
The appropriation stops me. The result of it. The impact that has on people.
It's quite a hard question.
It is a hard question because I feel like the impact is not just one thing.
Yeah.
It's so many things.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, it's another lack of control thing where women can't really control these things unless they go and get surgery or they get things enhanced synthetically. And
it's putting value on the external experience so much when this is literally just a flesh suit. Like it's a flesh suit. And we're putting so much value on it.
Yeah.
That we're completely bypassing what's going on for us internally a lot of the time.
Yes.
And what's going on for us internally has the ability to harm us and harm the people around us.
Yeah.
And if we're not being aware of it, and if we're just feeding into materialism and what's going on the outside, then we're doing a disjustice and disservice to ourselves, but also to our community.
And I think it's also not just disrespectful, but it's really damaging and ignorant to appropriate these things, especially when it comes to like big lips and big bums, and completely bypass the discrimination that dark-skinned women experience. Yeah. It's not just this discrimination in terms of appearance though, I just mean generally.
Yeah.
Within their
Yeah, definitely.
Like not only are you gonna rob their stuff,
But you're
also
going
to
to
completely discriminate, them for it, and you're going to ignore all of the hardships that come with having those things.
Yeah. There's a crime going on.
Yeah. Like, sorry, I've had personal experiences with white friends that I have, and this has been within the last few years, where I've known, and this sounds really big-headed, but I don't mean it in that way, just where I know that they've envied certain parts of my aesthetic, whether it be my eyebrows or my skin colour or my hair, whatever, and they how am I trying to say this? The dynamic of our relationship becomes really toxic because I become aware of that envy, and they're very happy to make it obvious, right? And I'm like, you're not acknowledging the hardships that have come with having these things in my life. You don't know what it means to be in my body.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just jealous because this is what the trend is on Instagram right now.
And I'm telling you, if someone's telling you that you're appropriating, or if someone's telling you, well, not necessarily appropriating, but if someone is explaining to you that you're doing this off the back of someone else's culture, then just listen to them. Like, no one's gonna just pull that out their ass. Like,
and I never pulled those people up on it because they simply wouldn't understand. And then I sound like, oh my god, you're just trying to look like me because being ethnic is what's cool right now.
But do you think this is something that can be understood by white people?
Yes.
Yeah, I do as well.
I don't think it's something
that they
can fully understand from our perspective, but
Yeah.
I think they can understand it enough to acknowledge and accept that that's what's going on and that it's not okay to be that way.
Yeah. And can I just say as well, this is not just white people, because non-black people of colour also
do this,
massively. And they think just because they're brown, they're black. It's not true. And for men, you know, like, so weird. So weird to see how Drake has made being Arab cool.
Oh my god, it's so weird.
Because this was something that, we're Iranian, and that's not something that we openly spoke about in the early 2000s, because we moved here when the Iraq war started. And of course, as soon as you tell someone you're Iranian, they're like, you're from Iraq.
Yeah.
You're from Iraq.
Saddam Hussein's your dad. Lol.
Yeah. Oh my god, literally. So
yeah,
you're being like punished essentially socially for being Arab, and then all of a sudden it's the coolest thing ever because they've got loads of money. They've discovered now, the awareness has reached that actually there's a lot.
Dubai.
Yeah, hell yeah. Wow, it only took you to 2021, but yeah, so now that's the aesthetic for men. It's really strange, like, honestly. And also, like you said, the grime artists, the tracksuit, all of that, and we're not understanding the context.
Yeah.
Do I need to say it again? But yeah, we really wanted to talk about, like, the deeper impact that has.
And sorry, just on that, on the impact that it has, like, we've talked a lot about self-esteem.
Yeah.
But the internal conflict.
Yeah.
That was always, I always felt very confused, like, why is this okay here and not okay here? Why is this okay here and not okay here? Why am I being bashed for this, but it's being celebrated by this person?
Oh my god, yes.
You know, it's so backwards, and the confusion and the identity crisis and all of that. It's a lot. It's a lot for people of colour to handle.
Definitely.
Because I know plenty of girls who have really, really pale skin and they have light coloured hair, and that's how I knew them at school.
Yeah.
And that's how I see, like, you look beautiful like that.
Exactly.
You know, like, embrace it.
Embrace it. I was dying to look like you for most of my life. So
yeah, exactly.
Just embrace it, please.
Embrace it. Like, it's what you were born with. And I'm not saying, like, oh, you have to have the natural aesthetic. Like, do whatever you want. But I think it creates you internalize, like, there's so much self-hatred involved in making yourself look completely different to the way that you naturally look.
Yes. Yeah. And I think there's some sort of dysmorphia that goes on there, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about fully accepting yourself and being okay with who you are, and understanding that, like, what you've got right now is because of the ancestors that survived and procreated
Yeah.
and allowed you to be here. So it's just, you know, appreciate that. Appreciate your lineage.
Yeah. Yes.
You know? And I think that's where
We're gonna
where the
leave
conversation
it.
ends.
But especially with this episode, please, we would really like to hear from you. And we know we're kind of just spouting our opinions out there. Like, I would really love to hear back and have, like, continue this conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think it's just so important, and it's something that comes up in my life at least every day. So
yeah,
let us know.
Definitely. Next week we're going to be talking about essentially body shaming, you know, going deeper into the shame that we were just talking about, and exploring a bit more around disability, visible differences such as acne, and going a bit deeper into like diet culture and consumerism via social media, etc., and the switch up. So we hope to see you there. And what's your song of the week?
Oh my gosh.
Can we just acknowledge that I feel like the last week's been so tough for a lot of people?
Oh, you mean lockdown wise?
Yeah.
Yeah. I found it really hard.
Yeah, I think I've seen that a lot. It's just also January, end of January feels
Yes.
and everything.
I think even generally January is like the longest month. People tend to go the longest time without getting paid. People do like dry January. They're like watching their weight. It's miserable outside.
Yeah, and I'm just missing my friends,
and I miss going out so much. I miss seeing people and just having fun.
Me and Ra were like, we're hitting the clubs.
I'm hitting the club.
We don't.
You better believe I'm hitting the club.
So,
Catch
anyway,
me on the dance floor. Yeah, what is your song of the week? I'm trying to remember mine.
my song of the week is Rebirth of Slick, Cool Like That by Diggable Planets.
Oh, whoa.
Really making me feel good.
My song of the week is The Prison Song by Sharon Shapare.
Oh my god. Absolute blaster.
For anyone who doesn't know, that's a Persian singer who's got an absolute tune.
Oh my god, it's
Called The Prison
amazing.
Song.
And it's been sampled by Kanye, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
For Nas's album, yeah. Amazing.
Bang.
All right, well.
Thanks so much for joining us. Please let us know what you think, and let's continue this conversation, and peace and love.
Goodbye.